The years of Joseph in prison, a lesson in patience and chastity. The story of a young man, thrown into a well by his brothers, sold into slavery, then raised in a palace. But his real test begins here. Power, beauty, and opportunity, all suddenly before him. But he says no. And the price? Years in prison. Today, I will tell you one of the most compelling stories in the Quran. The prison years of Prophet Joseph, because sometimes the greatest victories in life are won not when we say yes, but when we say no. The dark game of the palace. Prophet Joseph is now in the house of Egypt's nobleman. He has been freed from slavery and elevated to a position of trust. In the Quran, Surah Yusuf, verse 21, it says, "The Egyptian who bought him said to his wife, 'Treat him well. Perhaps he will be useful to us.'" Yusuf is now a young man. The beauty that Allah has given him is described in the Quran as follows. When the women saw him, they cut their hands and said, "Far be it, this is no mortal, but an honorable angel." Surah Yusuf 31. It was during this period that the vizier's wife, Zuleikha, became enamored with Joseph. She locked all the doors of the palace and said to him, "Come." Surah Yusuf 23. Imagine a young man alone in the palace with a powerful woman. No one will see, no one will know, but Yusuf's response goes down in history. "I seek refuge in Allah. He is my master, and he has treated me well. Surely the wrongdoers will not prosper." Surah Yusuf 23. Escape and false accusation. Joseph runs toward the door. The woman grabs him from behind, ripping his shirt from behind. And just then, the door opens. Aziz enters. Now the woman has two choices. Either tell the truth and be disgraced, or accuse Yusuf. And she accuses him. What is the punishment for someone who wants to harm you and your family, other than being thrown into prison or suffering a painful torment? Surah Yusuf 25. But Allah reveals Yusuf's innocence. One of the woman's relatives testifies, "If the shirt is torn from the front, the woman has spoken the truth. If it is torn from the back, the woman has lied." Surah Yusuf 26-27. The shirt is torn from the back. The truth is clear, but the story does not end here. Imprisonment and the ability to interpret. Hearing the women's gossip, the nobleman makes a decision due to social pressure. Even though his innocence has been proven, he has Joseph thrown into prison, the Quran states. Then, after seeing the evidence, they deemed it appropriate to imprison him for a period of time. Surah Yusuf 35. Joseph is now in prison, unjustly. He protected his chastity, said no to the forbidden, and in return he is behind bars. But this is where Joseph's true character emerges. He does not rebel in prison. He does not turn away from Allah. On the contrary, he begins to help people with the ability to interpret dreams given to him by Allah. Two prisoners come to him. One says, "I saw myself pressing wine in my dream." The other says, "I saw myself carrying bread on my head, and birds were eating from it." Surah Yusuf 36. Joseph first invites them to monotheism. "O my fellow prisoners, are separate gods better, or the one, the Almighty God?" Surah Yusuf 39. Then he interprets their dreams. To one he says, "You will return to your position in the palace and serve wine to your master." To the other he says, "You will be hanged, and birds will eat from your head." Surah Yusuf 41. And that is exactly what happens. Forgetfulness and patience. Joseph makes a request to the prisoner who will be released. "When you return to your master, mention me." Surah Yusuf 42. But the Quran continues, "But Satan made him forget to mention Joseph to his master. Therefore, Joseph remained in prison for several more years." Surah Yusuf 42. Several years. Some commentaries say 7 years, others say 9 years. An innocent young man imprisoned for years for avoiding sin. But look, what is Joseph doing during this time? He does not succumb to despair. He does not lose his faith. With patience and trust, he surrenders to Allah's wisdom. Conclusion and lessons. Brothers, Joseph's years in prison teach us 3 great lessons. First, chastity. Being able to say no when the environment, opportunity, and beauty are all there for sinning. Joseph knew that even in a situation where no one sees, Allah sees everything. Second, patience. Not rebelling even when treated unjustly. Continuing to guide people even in prison. Third, trust. Trusting in Allah's wisdom. Joseph did not know that these years in prison would lead him to become the guardian of Egypt's treasures. Surah Yusuf 54-55. Sometimes life throws us into prisons, but remember, every hardship is a test. And like Prophet Joseph, the way to emerge victorious from these tests is through chastity, patience, and trust in Allah.